Visión comunal, en contacto con las comunidades.
Venezuela in the news. News from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
Headlines. Venezuelan government and leaders of the opposition approved 5 agreements in the Roundtable of Dialogue. Venezuela will request the government of the United States to annul the decree of threat. Opposition leaders accepted to dialogue because of the international pressure. 5 aspects in the economic, political, and social areas were agreed upon between the national government and the opposition leaders after the second plenary session of the National Dialogue, with the participation of delegates from the national government and the opposition party coalition MUD. The Vatican Special Envoy, Monsignor Claudio Maria Celli, read the final document. The first agreement addressed the economic and social areas. Another agreement was made on national sovereignty and protection of the territorial integrity. The unanimous position was set on the defense of Venezuela's legitimate and inalienable rights over Guyana and the defense of the 1966 Geneva Agreement. The joint statement of living together in peace was adopted. The Secretary General of the UNOSUR, Ernesto Samper, highlighted the commitment of the government and the MUD with the process of national dialogue and the contribution that has been made to peace. In the next days, the head of state, Nicolás Maduro, will hold a meeting with the Secretary of the U.S. State Department, John Kerry. He will hold a conversation to request the annulment of the decree that the government of the United States imposed upon the Venezuelan nation during Barack Obama's administration, declaring it an unusual and extraordinary threat. President Maduro will demand President-elect Donald Trump to annul the mentioned document. Barack Obama issued an order of continuity for a year of the national emergency declared upon the Venezuelan nation in 2015. The MUD accepted to fight against the economic boycott, as stated the communique issued in the Roundtable of Dialogue. In the second plenary session of the Roundtable of Dialogue, representatives of the government and the opposition decided to prioritize in the short term the economic mechanisms for the supply of medicines and food in the country. Member of the Roundtable of Dialogue in representation of the MUD, Carlos Ocariz, committed to this. When the MUD accepted the first agreement in the Roundtable of Dialogue, they acknowledged their active participation as a destabilizing factor of the Venezuelan economy. The first commitment adopted by the political actors prioritizes the cooperation between the public and private sectors to monitor and control the mechanisms of purchase and distribution of raw materials and finished goods.
Venezuela in the news.
The Supreme Court of Justice decided to approve the disincorporation of the 3 deputies from the state of Amazonas, Julio Aron Igarza, Nirma Guarulla, and Rommel Guzamana, who incurred in electoral fraud. Tarek El Aissami, spokesman of the National Political Government and member of the Roundtable of Dialogue, demanded the President of the National Assembly to proceed peremptorily in the disincorporation of the 3 deputies and to comply with the rulings of the Supreme Court of Justice. The decision is part of the second agreement in the political field, made in the second session of the Roundtable of Dialogue. There it was decided to move forward in solving the contempt situation of the National Assembly dictated by the Supreme Court of Justice and to call the public powers to act on the resolution of the situation of the case of the state of Amazonas in peremptory terms. The 3 deputies of the MUD incurred in electoral fraud in the state of Amazonas. The opposition leaders accepted to dialogue because of the international pressure, for which the spokespersons of the opposition party coalition MUD must do politics. This affirmation was made by Venezuela's former Minister of Defense, José Vicente Rangel. The opposition leaders never cooperated with the installation of the Roundtable of Dialogue because they insisted on their destabilizing plans. The national government maintains the initiative of the dialogue mechanisms, like the sustained mobilization of their followers, while the MUD goes through critical moments generated by their internal leadership struggles and their threat policies.
News from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
Headlines. Venezuelan government and leaders of the opposition approved 5 agreements in the Roundtable of Dialogue. Venezuela will request the government of the United States to annul the decree of threat. Opposition leaders accepted to dialogue because of the international pressure.
Venezuela in the news. News from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
Visión comunal, en contacto con las comunidades.